I was walking to the school bus stop with my mum and our 2 dogs. I go this way to school every day. As I was walking down the road near the apartments, I saw a man on the small path behind the block. My grandparents used to live in that apartment, so I always look at it as I pass by. The man seemed to be looking at the balcony of the ground floor apartment. He was wearing a black jacket and leaning against the wall. I don't think there was anyone on the terrace. My mum and I crossed the road a little further on, and I got a good look at him then. He didn't look at me. The man had light-coloured skin. He didn't really look Portuguese, but might have been British. He was around 1.8 metres tall. He was thin and probably 30 or 35 years old. It was hard to see, though, because of the sun was reflecting in my eyes. He had short, light hair, shaved about 1 centimetre long. I couldn't see his eyes because he was wearing black sunglasses with thick frames. His head was large. He had a normal nose, a bit thin and pointy. He had big ears, but they didn't stick out. His lips were thin, and I couldn't see his teeth. He didn't have a beard or a moustache. He had lots of spots on his face, probably because of shaving. He was ugly, maybe even disgusting. He was wearing a thin black leather jacket made from leather. It had a silver zip with lots of pockets, which also had silver zips. His jacket was open, and underneath it was a white T-shirt with a dark... I didn't go to school that day because I had an ear infection. I felt a little bit better around 12 o'clock, so I went out to do some shopping. I took my dogs with me. After the shop, I was walking up the road with my 2 dogs when I saw the man. He was standing on the road opposite the Ocean Club, and he was staring at the apartment. From where he was standing, I think he could see the 2 side windows of the house and part of the balcony. He may also have been looking at the other houses in that direction. He had his hands in his pockets. I passed right by him on the other side of the road and looked straight at him. He didn't look at me. He was wearing the same jacket as before, but zipped up. It was a colder, windier day today. I didn't really notice what else he was wearing. I remember he had a pen with a clip sticking out of one of the pockets. I could also see something shaped like...
I can't remember whether I saw the man on Wednesday the 2nd or Thursday the 3rd of May. It was late morning, though, either way. My partner and I had left our apartment on the Rue du Ramelete, turning left out of the door and then left into Rue d'Agostino da Silva, then onto Rue du Francisco Gentil Martins. As we walked along the road, passing the Ocean Club on the other side, I saw a man standing next to the wall by the parking area. On the opposite side of the road was a white van. I can't remember if anyone was with the vehicle or not, but I paid particular attention to the man because he appeared to be focused on watching the apartment block. As I walked past him, I looked at him, and for a split second we had eye contact, but then he just carried on staring at the apartment. I followed his line of vision, and he was looking directly at the apartment, which I later found out was where the McCanns were staying. He was dark, perhaps Portuguese, with dark hair. He was wearing a plain...
Just after 9, I got up and walked out of the tapas bar to check that everything was okay with my daughters. I walked across the pool area towards the Ocean Club reception. I walked out through the reception, onto the road and turned left. As I walked up the road, I passed Jerry talking to a British tourist, Jez Wilkins. I remembered Jerry had played tennis with him during the holiday. I remembered them being on the same side of the road as the Ocean Club reception. They were chatting. Jerry had his back to me, and Jez was on the road and had a pram with him, although I couldn't see if there was a child in it or not. I passed them without talking to them. I assumed that Jerry had already been to his apartment since he had been gone from the table a while. I carried on walking towards the top of the road. When I was about halfway between Jerry and Jez and the junction, perhaps 10 to 15 feet from the junction, I saw a man walking across the top of the street with a small child in his arms. He caught my attention because the child wasn't covered up. There was no blanket or anything. The man had a dark complexion. He looked about 35 or 40 years old. He was thin and probably around 5'10". He had very dark, thick hair, shiny but a bit messy. It was long down to his neck, but shorter at the sides. He didn't look like a typical tourist. He was a bit scruffy. He was wearing baggy yellowy-brown linen-like trousers with a darker bomber-style jacket, but not really a thick one. I can't remember his shoes very well. They might have been black, fairly standard ones. He looked fairly wrapped up, which made me think he might not have been a tourist. The child was held at his chest, lying across his arms. The child was larger than a baby and appeared to be sleeping. I could only really see their legs properly. They were barefoot, wearing what looked like light-coloured.
I was with my family. We'd been out for the night. After leaving a bar, we took the back way up some steps. We turned off this street and up another street. I'm not sure of its name. We were walking up this street when I saw a man, and he was carrying a child. I thought they were father and daughter, so I wasn't so suspicious. He was walking down the street in the opposite direction to us. The girl was about 4. She looked like my granddaughter. Blonde hair, pale white skin, typically British. The man didn't look like a tourist. I can't explain why. It was probably from his clothes. I only really saw the man when we passed each other. He was white, about 175 or 18 metres tall, perhaps 34 or 35 years old. He was slim to normal build with short brown hair. He didn't wear glasses, moustache or beard. I can't recall what he was wearing apart from a pair of beige trousers. The girl was wearing light-coloured pyjamas. She was uncovered, no blanket or throw. Some of my family remember her having bare feet. He was carrying the girl over his arms with her head against his left shoulder. He looked a bit uncomfortable in the way he carried her.